As a lot of you probably know, my name is CCox, and I've grown up in Nelsonville my whole life. I was raised in a Christian household by Steve and Debbie Cox. I had a really good church experience when I was young. I think Pastor Gary was our pastor then, and I remember thinking that he was actually God because he had that deep voice and he had such a big beard. So I remember I would talk to my parents to talk to him and call him God. When I think about my relationship with Jesus, I don't really think of one lightning strike moment where I finally, the clouds parted and I realized Jesus was my Savior. I think it's always been something I've known in my heart ever since I was a young boy, but just as I've grown, it's been a gradual process of learning, of accepting Jesus in my heart and letting him be the Lord of my life and my Savior. Growing up through like elementary school, my concept of God and my relationship with him was that yes, he sent his son to die for me and that I have eternity with him, but until then, God doesn't need to be a huge part of my life, like my daily life. I kind of thought of God as like he had this back off approach where he would let me live my life and do what I wanted, as long as it wasn't too bad. So as I started to get older and progress throughout school years, I became kind of a perfectionist. I have to know something's going to be perfect or done right before I do it, and sometimes that kind of stops me from doing things. It just really changed my mindset to the world. I wasn't thinking about how Jesus died for me, died for my sins, and therefore I didn't have to be perfect, but I thought that I had to be perfect. There was, I think, 3 years throughout high school, from sophomore to senior year, where I hosted Young Life events at my parents' house, but it also added this layer of perfectionism to me and my thoughts. I thought since I was the kid where they had Young Life at his house that I had to maintain again this level of being perfect, and if I made one tiny mistake, that was the worst thing in the world. So there was just this constant dialogue within my head throughout high school that Casey, you can't mess up, you can't mess up, you can't do anything wrong. When I started to get involved with Young Life, I really, my idea of this relationship with God changed. The fact that he is actually living inside of me and Jesus is in my heart, and he's with me every day, and for that I should be thinking about him every day. I should be talking to him every day. I should be diving into his word every day. I should be reflecting on his love every day. My senior year, and it was December, so it's halfway through my senior year, my cousin Matt took his own life, and that was just devastating for myself and for my entire family. Next 3 or 4 months were just a period of numbness where it was kind of hard to be happy without feeling some sort of pain or just reflecting on my cousin and what he went through. I was fortunate enough that that period of 3-4 months where I felt numb and I just wasn't too excited about things that were going on in school or sports, or I wasn't too excited about college at that point for a little bit. That all led to the end of my senior year when I went to Young Life camp, and I had never really openly talked to anybody about my cousin's death and what it meant to me and how it changed me until I had a one-on-one conversation with my Young Life leader. But he opened up and told me about how he went through the same thing with his aunt when he was in high school, and that was just so groundbreaking for me to be able to voice my thoughts and my feelings with someone that cared. And he was able to point me to Jesus and show me how Jesus was with me every step of the way. And I could really reflect from camp to when my cousin took his own life, how God was holding us in his hands the whole way, how my family was brought closer because of that. And that experience led me to want to share my faith with others in college. So I became a Young Life leader, and just a long story short, that was 4 years just of amazing service for the Lord and seeing what ministry looks like. It was my first actual opportunity, I feel, for a prolonged ministry. And that was just amazing to see the fruits of, from my freshman year to my senior year, how I was able to introduce some kids to Christ, and just help other kids grow in their faith as well, and to just see God working at Athens High School. Something I could compare my relationship with Jesus to is this journey where he's always been by my side. I've always been walking with him, but at times I try to walk too far ahead of him, or at times I pause while he's walking, or at times I'm taking steps back. But what's reassuring is knowing that no matter what, Jesus will always be with me, and he'll always be waiting for me, and he'll always be holding my hand throughout the journey.